So one of the challenges that you'll often have with cold calling if you're an appointment setter is turn up rates. We're experiencing that with a client that we've got particularly right now. You can see the Aaron's here, and the questions that he's asked is one of the struggles that we're having is that we get a yes, but then people don't turn up to appointments. And if you're in new business and you are an appointment setter, that is absolutely something that you will experience. Not enough people talk about it, I see, on YouTube or otherwise, which tells me that people are perhaps lying because it's if you have experienced cold calling, then you'll know that turn up rates are a challenge. And what I want to walk through is several strategies that you can employ to help ensure turn up rates. So bucket number one is doing a callback on the day that the appointment is meant to happen to ensure that the prospect is actually going to turn up for the call. So you can do what we call a, if you think of securing the appointment as the close, do a two-call close. So that's bucket number one. So that's something that anyone can do, regardless of how the conversation went. On the day the appointment is going to happen, if it's in the afternoon, call in the morning. If it's in the morning, call the night before. But two call closes is something that you can begin to adopt. That's bucket number one. Okay. Bucket number two, much of it will rest upon, and this is a broader life thing, the value that you take from any conversation or anything that you read or listen to, largely in part, is determined by how much you value the person delivering the message. If you don't value the speaker, two people can say the same thing and you can ignore one and take all of the value from the other, even where they say the same thing. And people often see that manifest in their lives when someone says, I've been telling you that, bro, all the fucking along. And the undercurrent of that is that, yeah, but I think you're a dickhead. So I ignore a lot of your advice. Or that the timing wasn't right because there's new things I've learned along the way that's offered me an altered perspective. And that is what has changed. Or the way the other person said it hit me differently. So now I understand the message. So in all of those instances, the one way that you can carry over is that if you are able to deliver messages in a compelling way, then that can, in large part, improve turn up rates. So when booking appointments, the level of confidence that you have when you say, look, I promise you, this is absolutely going to be worth it. I know part of you is thinking that, well, let me just book the appointment and I can see how I feel on the day. I just want to say, George, that I really hope you do turn up to the appointment, mate, because I honestly promise, whilst we've not got to a completely productive outcome, the call will clarify all of your concerns. Now, so notice what I'm actually doing there is having, and let's assume this person I'm calling is George. George probably respects me more for saying that, saying, I promise you, look, I promise you, mate, it's going to be worth it. And that is confidence as well as ultimately talking to a person at a personal level. Look, can I just say personally, I really hope you do turn up because it means a lot to me. So applying a personal call out to the person you're speaking to professionally can sometimes work. So what we're doing is we're stacking different strategies and you can attempt one or potentially all of them. So number one, we spoke about the two call close. Number two, we spoke about the confidence with which you communicate. Look, this is absolutely going to be worth it, mate. So, or Richard or George, this is going to really be worth it. The return on investment that you can get from our oil filtration machine is going to be massive. I hear you that you're concerned about the lease, but listen, even with the lease, you will see that you're going to save money on your monthly oil costs. I am so sure of that, which is why I think you should turn up to the call. Does that make sense? I hope so. So that's bucket number two. Bucket number three, or option number three, is we're stacking. Option number three is, yeah. And look, can I just add, like, separate to all that, Rich? Like, my performance, if I'm being honest, mate, is measured on people like yourself turning up. So I just want to say, obviously, I can't do anything about it, but I really hope that you turn up to the call, because it's just going to mean a lot to me when it comes to me performing at my own job. So if nothing else, I'd really appreciate you just turning up for the conversation so that you can appeal to people's personal nature, even in a professional capacity. So that's option number three. And you can do that on almost every single call where you're unsure about the likelihood that that person will turn up. Or you can just do it irrespective and build it into your scripts. So that's option number 3. Option number 4 that you can employ is your ability to small talk and to build up instant rapport and instant friendship. So when you're cold calling, one of the things that you want to be able to communicate is that, you know what? Deepak seems like the kind of guy I could have a laugh with at the pub, or Deepak seems like the kind of guy I could go for Sunday brunch with. And that's something that you need to be able to instantly communicate. And that communication comes from all of the things that don't relate directly to the pitch. So that's about your ability to drum up, summon up, small talk, or involve a person with inside jokes. So to spitball and give you multiple examples of that, because I'll give you some examples, and then we'll talk about how you can develop that, because I appreciate at the moment it might sound abstract. So multiple examples would be, so George, happy Friday, mate. First of all, so I'm off to the boozer in about 20 minutes. So I thought that I'd make my last call of the day magnificent before I go to St. George's Dragon, which is my pub just down the road, and I'm gonna have myself an IPA because that's what I feel like right now. Anyway, coming back, that is an example of small talk. Because depending upon the way that the person answers, hello, mate, how you doing? It's George's Fish and Chip Shop. You might think that, so you need to read the room and you need to understand. And this is where we speak about, so industry jargon is something that's important when you speak a prospect's language. But there's 2 languages that every prospect speaks. There's a language they speak at work when it comes to the professional terms that relate to their industry. And there's a language that they speak when they're just talking to their mates down the pub. And the people that they appreciate the most are the people that they can do both with. So you want to demonstrate that you have the ability to potentially be that person in both buckets. Because then they think, you know what? Deepak seems like the kind of guy I'll have brunch with. I'm going to turn up because he just seems like a nice guy. I get pitched every day, but I like Deepak more because, and it can often be for things that don't relate to the direct nature of the pitch, which is where I say, oh, you know, I'm off to the pub. Looking forward to having my Stella. I know. Stella's a bit of a wife beater's drink, but I love it. I need to get over England getting knocked out in the European Championships. It just made me so sad. Don't know if you're a football fan. If you're not, ignore. If you are, you probably share my sorrow. Anyway, moving on. Second example. So you can call upon things that you think will be popularly shared cultural sentiment. So they call it the laissez-faire, the spirit of the time. So that's a second example. And there's many, many different examples of that you can employ. And that's something that you want to try and build into every pitch, because that's how you can, where we spoke about, Aaron, the long yes. Because really the problem with a long yes is if they just say yes and you've already explained the benefits of it and they say, that sounds great, what else do I say? And it's all of these things that you can pepper in the middle of in the beginning or different parts of the pitch, and finding the moments and being able to continuously build in different elements throughout the pitch. So you've got those examples, that you've got the pub, Friday night pub example. You've got the England football, which is, you know, a cultural thing at the time. A different example could be, let me think of a third example because I'm thinking about this on the spot. We'll think about like Judy now. So we're talking to Judy, and Judy will say, "Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this, Aaron. But okay, I'm happy to turn up to the appointment, and we could, I guess we could take it from there." So then with Judy, you might say something as simple as, let me think about this. Judy, now look, I hear where you're coming from. And if you're anything like me, I know that you're probably 50-50 as to whether you think it's going to be worth it. And you know what? You remind me of one of my colleagues in the office, Claire, and she is 50-50 almost all of the time on some of the things that I say, but I've done nothing but been able to pleasantly surprise her. So Judy, please give me the privilege of present. So now I'm turning it into a bit of comedy and I'm trying to make a joke out of something. And again, guys, this might not work, but it doesn't matter if it doesn't work, because people appreciate underneath the sales pitch there's also Deepak the person. And Deepak the person feels like someone I could see myself having an office joke with. And because of the respect I've now generated for Deepak, I'm probably a bit more likely to turn up to the call. The way that you can systematically develop something like that is, of course, practice, and then developing go-to examples that you can use across calls. So Thursday, Friday, towards the end of the day, you can talk about the whole pub thing. And at the beginning of the day, you could say, well, hopefully I'm going to be your first surprising call of the morning. I'm just curious. How many do you get, like 100 cold calls every morning? Even I get cold calls and I'm a cold caller. Fancy that. So spend some time building your sheet of small talk that you can pick from, and working and spending some time building that out is going to help with your ability to generate longer yeses, because really the obvious yes is cool. I go through the pitch and I talk to them about the benefits. They tell me a little bit about that challenges at work. And that is something, by the way, everyone should be able to do. But the problem comes in when you think that you haven't quite captured the respect of the person and you don't know whether they're going to turn up. And what will always help you is if they walk away from that call thinking, Deepak is the kind of guy I could have a laugh with, because you respect people like that and you want to do things for people like that. So you need to learn to be like that. That's it. Any questions, Aaron?
I think for me, what resonates best with my personality. Obviously, I don't go drinking at the
Sure.
pub because I'm
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
Comedy is going to be something I'll try to apply. So,
So you could.
is it worth pushing the call longer after they've agreed to the appointment to just get that
So
human feel
yeah, sure.
across?
So it's very contextually dependent, I'd say. So, but I would say aim for one sidebar per call, if that makes sense, where you talk about something that's a complete aside. Aim to do one per call, and practice will tell you where the appropriate place to slip it in is. So beginning to
Okay.
think about some of your call, like Eon does it extremely well. Eon does part stand-up comedy when he does anything that he speaks about. And he's so well practiced that it comes to him naturally now, because he's built up a huge joke repository, because he's done it a lot over time. So timing will come as a consequence of mistiming in the beginning, which is an outcome of just practice. So telling you it
Mm,
depends isn't that helpful, but I just say aim to do one per call, and it will, of course, be shit to begin with, but you'll learn very rapidly where the appropriate points are. And the fact that you're 17 and that you're in Worthing and whatever else that you want to do, use them to your advantage and say, Richard, let me be the first 17-year-old who has convinced you enough to turn up to an appointment. I'm not even old enough to be at the park. You could, if you want to. Again, these are just like, we all have advantages, and of course, people won't necessarily know that you're 17, and I don't know if that's something you want to communicate. And the pub thing doesn't really resonate with you, so you're going to struggle to identify with that. But you can think about how you can use your age to your advantage based upon the people that you speak to, um,
mm,
and then experiment with it.
okay.
And ask ChatGPT, of course, to see if it can engineer some ideas for you, and then see what does resonate with you. But one prompt that you could maybe run with is, I often talk to decision makers who are typically older than me, that are anything from 30 to 50, both male and female. I want to build some small talk when I cold call, to have them feel like I could be the kind of person they could be friends with, or they could see as being a junior in their office, because they are senior, especially in context of the call I'm asking them to buy something from me. So with that in mind, and knowing a little bit about myself, I'm 17 years old. These are my things that I enjoy. Da, 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 da. Give me some examples, 10 examples of things that would constitute small talk that would identify with me, but that would also identify with my prospect. And stop a prompt like that might start giving you some ideas that you could then say, well, I can do that, I can do that, to then start to feed into calls. Because I agree that you need to identify with it, because the pub thing, you feel like I'm just, it just feels foreign to me. I agree. So try and find different examples, but obviously it what you need to identify, and it's not obvious to me, I need some help, is where the point of convergence with you and someone that you're communicating with is, and and and
Mm.
and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
something that you need to figure out.
yeah. I'll have a think because yeah, nothing comes to me off the top of my head
It
on
doesn't.
how I'm gonna resonate. But yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't with me either. But I know that you like, for example, you like basketball. You live in the south of England. Think about common even stereotypes. It doesn't need to be personal at that level. You could talk about something that's culturally apparent.
Mm, mm.
The football thing. You probably watched the England in the final, and if you talk to someone about that, then you can look at other markers that are useful, or you could spend some time thinking about it, and see what you come up with, and we can discuss that obviously separately where you struggle. Any other questions or comments?
Uh, not regard is the Zoom info thing. Do we have the credits now?
Well, let's on that note wrap here when it comes to the call, about the sales side. So for those of you who are listening, appreciate you and keep watching and subscribe to my channel.